everybody, welcome back to Rain and Pours. I am Mitch, and as you can see today we are down on my studio floor with my puppy pool set up, and I've got some used puppy pads from a table that I poured for a customer, and I'm going to be pouring some large paint skins, and it's much easier to do it on the floor than it is to do it on the table and try and manage everything from up there. Now this is going to be the first lot of paint skins in a series of artworks that I want to do, all relating to animals and animal print. So my idea, if you watched my skull collaboration pour for the This Little Piggy Hometown collaboration, you would have seen that I did a few pours making paint skins, and then I used my silhouette machine to cut those out. So I'm going to do the same thing with my paint skins, but I'm going to make some animal prints, which I think is going to be really, really fun. So I'm going to start off by showing you the colors, and I'm going to tell you what the first animal I'm going to paint is. So the first one that I really, really want to do is a red-tailed black cockatoo. And I've got a couple of different colors mixed up here, and this one's very simple, but the way I'm going to do it is very complex. So on my computer I have designed a series of files, or it's one file actually, with 3 different sized feathers on there, and a couple of different shapes, a couple of different lengths, and a couple of different designs. So the 2 parts of a red-tailed black cockatoo are the red for the tail and the black for the body. It's pretty damn simple. So what I have mixed up for the tail, I've got This Little Piggy Grenache mixed with Amsterdam Pyrrole Red, just to give it a little bit of a color boost. It hasn't really changed the color of the pigment, but it has made it a little bit more opaque. I really want full coverage with this so that I get some really nice results. I have This Little Piggy Aphrodite, and I have mixed this with Matisse Deep Rose Madder, and it's sort of changed from that really nice rich burgundy color to a really deep burgundy color. So I wanted to keep it within the same realm as my Grenache. And then as my tube paint for this one, I have Amsterdam Pyrrole Red. Really, really bright, so that's going to be my base layer, and then the sparkles are going to go on top. For my tube paints for the body, I have to get this one mixed up because I haven't done this yet. And I don't even really need a tube paint for the body, but I've had this black pouring medium mixed up for such a long time that I just want to get rid of it. So I'm going to use that as the base layer. But because I'm just using pigments over a black base, I don't really need this pouring medium layer. But like I said, just going to free up a container because I can. So this is just Amsterdam Lamp Black mixed into my normal Taubman's pouring medium. Then down here on my table, on my spinner, I have This Little Piggy Galaxy, which I've also added a little bit of Amsterdam Lamp Black to, again, just to bolster that a little bit more and make it a little bit deeper black, because it is more of a charcoal color. And I have This Little Piggy King of Pain, which is very similar to Galaxy, except it has a blue hue to it. And to this one, again, just to bolster the color and change the hue ever so slightly, I've added a couple of drops of Prussian Blue by Matisse, and that's just made it a little bit more of a blue color. So I'm going to put my colors up on my bench, and we're going to pour down our pillow. Now I'm going to be swiping out the top portion with an Amsterdam Lamp Black Cell Activator. That's just mixed with my Australian Floetrol, and I'm going to be using my handy dandy Fluid Art Co swiping tool to swipe everything out. Now I'm not sure if I want to swipe out the layer for the feathers, so I'm going to see how we go first, and if I do, I will most likely make up a red cell activator. So our first layer couldn't be any simpler. We're going to pour a black paint skin. So the black paint that I prefer for my pillow is the Taubman's Low Sheen Exterior in black. That's this can here, 4 Seasons Defense, and it's already tinted black. This is perfect because we don't need to add any extra layers to it. We don't have to make a fake pillow, and it's already the perfect consistency straight out of the tub. Okay, so as I was saying, the exterior low sheen Four Seasons Defense for my black pillow. Now, when you're pouring paint skins, you want them to be as thin as possible. And that's so that you don't warp all your cells and you don't get you don't waste a lot of paint. And you want this to be as thin as possible, so when you put it on your cutting machine or you're going to cut it with your X-Acto knife, you don't have a lot to cut through and your machine can cut everything nice and accurately. I've got down here on my spinner the 24 inch by 24 inch fluid art coat pour mat, and you want to use the white ones for this because they're much more flexible and perfect for doing skins on. The black ones are better for resin. So to start this off, I'm going to lay down a square border, roughly about 2/3 the size of the spinner, and that should be plenty of paint. I'm just going to empty this out. Like I said, the reason we don't want too much, I just dropped something in there and I don't know what that was, but it was gloopy and gross. I'm actually going to throw this bottle out. So when I get big tins of paint, I like to reuse old bottles. So this one was just a Joe Sonia gloss varnish bottle. It's just a nice way to keep everything easy to pour, rather than having to pour out of the tub every time. So that's my pillow laid down. I'm also going to get ready a whole heap of paper towels just off to the side here. I've always got paper towel handy when I'm pouring. And today I actually invested in baby wipes. Okay, so to start with, I'm going to use my spatula to just spread this out nice and evenly. We want a nice even surface to work on. And when you're doing swipes or anything on a canvas or board with an odd shape, you want to make your puddle the same shape as whatever you're pouring on. So in this case, I've got a square, so I made my puddle or pillow paint a square as well. So that way when it spreads, it's going to spread in that shape. Okay, and I'm just cleaning off my spatula because when we put the cell activator on there, we don't want all of that. Now I'm going to give this a spin. I always give my swipe puddles a bit of a spin, and I'm just going to even that out. Okay, now it's time for our colours. So I'm going to go on with King of Pain first. And I'm going to do this in a spin swipe style, I think, because they tend to work out really well as paint skins. And I do want quite a lot of colour on there. This is a little 4 ounce, oh sorry, this is a 2 ounce container of paint that I've just mixed up fresh. Then I want to go with my black pouring medium. So the black in the middle is going to break up all of those pigments. And then I'm going to put on this little piggy Galaxy. And what I want to do is sort of blob this on in random places so that when I spin this out, I'm going to get all of those colours showing through as well. Okay, now it's time for our cell activator. And for my cell activator, I'm going to place it onto my swipe tool here. Just pouring that on. And then giving this a good roll around so that I coat all of the sides and the whole surface of the spatula. Okay. And normally I would drip some of this off, but because I've got such a big surface to work with, I'm just going to swipe this straight out. So I am noticing I've got quite a few bubbles on there. So I'm going to just give my surface a bit of a bang on the ground, and let's swipe this out. Lovely. I feel like I'm getting pretty confident with my spin swipes. They're getting better and better every time I do them. And what I really like about doing these is that when you spin everything out, you tend to get more cell activator in the middle, and then towards the edge, you get no cells. Now, when I'm creating the feathers for my bird, that's going to add a whole heap of dimension to the actual feathers, because you don't want everything to look the same with cells everywhere all the time. So, very important with this. Let's see, how do I want to stretch it? I want to stretch it this way. So what I'm doing is I'm just moving the weight of the center slightly off so that it's not going to form a mound of paint there. Now, my paint isn't going to move very far, so I am going to go around the edges with just a little bit more paint. And it really is just a little bit more. And then I'm going to use my hand to smooth in the line between the edge of the first lot of paint and the other one. And that's going to stop any lines from the paint drying too quickly from appearing in the final skin. Okay, and I think this is ready to spin. Nice big spin, and I want this to cover the entire mat. And I want it to be really nice and thin. So we're going to see how this goes. So keeping cell shape and structure isn't my major concern with this. What I want is depth and dimension in the colors. Welcome back. So I am back now painting the background for my red-tailed black cockatoo, and I'm doing this very, very simply. I don't want this to be too flashy or to have too much going on, because this is just the background for my artwork. So my aim with this is to do a couple of scoop and drag swipes with a chameleon pigment over a black background. Simple, I just want to keep it really nice and plain, and I want my cockatoo to be the focus. So I've got a couple of different sized palette knives here, and I'm going to swipe and then scoop and drag and then stretch everything out. Okay, so it sounds pretty simple, and it should be. So let's get straight into it. So because I want myself to stretch a little bit but not too much, I'm not going to put too much paint down, and I should say that this is an unprimed board, so it shouldn't warp. I'm hoping it doesn't warp because I haven't put anything on there to seal it. But then again, I've never used these before, so this is all going to be a bit of fun and learning for me. So let's tilt the canvas or tilt the board. Now with swipes, I do tend to put a lot less pillow paint down than I would for a bloom, because the paint doesn't need to travel as far because we're swiping everything out. And the paints that I'm going to use for this, like I said, I'm going to be using a chameleon pigment. That chameleon pigment is Northern Lights, and that's one that I got ages ago from my friend Emma in America from Dreamland Watercolor. And I do believe she now sells dry pigments. I don't know if she sells this one individually, but she does sell a couple of them. So I am going to put more paint down because I don't think I had enough. And what I've done with this wooden board is I've done a little bit differently to how I normally tape, and I've taped all the way up the sides. It's how Shelley does it, and a lot of other people are fond of doing it this way as well. And again, just spreading this out. And once this is in a nice, thin but even layer, I will bring the weight back to the center so we can swipe everything out. Okay, it's looking good. Let's give it a spin. That should make everything nice and even. One would hope. Cool. All right. Then when we are ready to spin this all the way out, I'll add some more pillow paint to the sides and go from there. Okay, so the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to apply the cell activator and color directly to my swipe tools, and then I'm going to swipe it out on the board. Okay, and I am pretty happy with that. So this is our background for the cockatoo. Like I said, nice and simple, and it's not going to detract from the cockatoo, but it's going to add a nice layer of depth to it. So I'm going to set this aside to dry, and we will be back hopefully when it's ready to assemble everything. So the paint skins are already dry. I just have to cut them out, and then we'll be ready to go. We'll be ready to assemble. So I'll let this dry and cure for a couple of days, and then we will be back. Okay, so as usual, in typical Mitchell fashion, it's been a couple of weeks since I started this project. I've been sidetracked and distracted, but now we are back to finish off our cockatoo. And I'm super excited because this has taken a very long time, and now we get to finish this all up. So now comes the fun part of sticking all of the feathers that we've created onto our background. So this is the dried background piece that I went with, and you can see I've used that beautiful Northern Lights chameleon pigment there that shifts from that deep green all the way through blue to that gorgeous purpley pink color. It's just absolutely amazing, and I thought that would be a great offset for our cockatoo. So the way that I think I want this to go is this way, with the cockatoo sitting like that. So I've printed out my cockatoo on an A4 piece of paper, and that's just going to be my reference for roughly where the feathers are going to sit. Now, because I cut these and they've been curing for a couple of weeks, the paint is now much firmer, and it's not as sticky as what it was when I cut these out. So that means that I can position them and they're not going to glue themselves together before I'm ready to adhere them in the right spots. So using my picture as a reference, I'm just going to keep it up the top here. I'm going to start putting down some feathers in the places where they should go. So for the tail, I want the tail to be quite straight, because that's how their tail feathers would be. And I'm going to use a variety of these feathers here. And you can see that there's a lot of variation in the feathers that I made. And I do have a color version of that image, but I'm going to use just the outline for the moment. Now we've got that, so those straight feathers underneath. Then I'm going to put the curved ones on top. And there is a reason we made so many of them, because you need to do layers. You can't just put one layer of feathers on and go from there. So, did I do another layer of red? No, okay, I've only got one layer of red. That's right, because I didn't cut the second lot of skins. So let's put 2 curved ones, and I did cut opposite sides of curved feathers. So I did some curving to the right, some curving to the left. There we go. And the problem that we're going to run into very quickly is a mound building up here. So we'll find a way to address that in a minute when we get to sticking these down. So I do want to include some of these shorter feathers because they are quite nice and different. And I don't want them all facing like being exactly the same length, because bird feathers aren't like that. So we've got the basic outline for our tail. We can always add more feathers to this to build up the shape. So that is our basic pattern here. Then we're going to do layers of black on top of that, and then coming down the sides. So for our layers of black, where do we need straight feathers? We need some straight feathers down the middle, but we're going to start off with our curved ones. So let's get some of our curved feathers going. And I need larger curved feathers for this part. So for the wing there, and alright, I'll be right back. I'm going to grab some more, some of my gold that I've got sitting inside waiting for the thing, for the silhouette. I think I have enough feathers here to make this art piece stand out. So I'm going to grab some gold to cut for the beak, which will go there, and for the eyeball. So I'll be right back. Alright, I'm back with my paint skins. So I've got some gold. These are left over from the giraffe paw that's coming up next. And I'm going to use these to make my beak. So the choice here is, which skin do I use? Do I go for the darker gold? I think I already know my answer. That is going to be yes. Or do I go for the lighter gold? So, as I've already taken chunks out of this one for another paw, I'm going to use that one, I think. And I'm going to cut out my beak shape. So I'm going to freehand this, I guess. That's going to be the easiest way to do it. And let's start with roughly cutting out a piece the size that I may use. I'm just going to cut here and cut here. So this is a great way to use offcuts and things, is to just cut pieces as you need. And I'm going to cut, I'm going to use my pencil or Sharpie to draw where I want my beak. Now the beak is going to also hide all of the area where the feathers are joining, and it's going to create one big seamless illusion, I hope. So I'm actually going to follow the natural curve that is in this piece already, because that pretty much goes exactly where I want the head of my bird to be. So got the pencil line there, and it's going to come out here, out and down. That's too big. So better to cut the piece a little bit too big and finesse it down than just to cut it too small to start with and not have enough material. So let's cut here, and we're going to go in the rough shape of the beak. Hello everybody. Okay, today is assembly day. I'm so excited. This project's been going on for nearly 8 weeks now, nearly 2 months. That's from the time that I poured all of the paint skins to this moment now. So, quick update on what has happened so far. So we've poured the paint skins, cut them out on the silhouette, poured our background with the chameleon colours, and I have arranged all of my feathers into my beautiful red-tailed black cockatoo, and here it is. So what I did, as per the suggestion of Billy Gora, a good friend of mine, I laid all of the feathers on a silicone mat, and then I put some paint cans on top of a flat surface on top of this to let them compress for about a week, and that basically bonded all of the feathers together enough so that I could spray varnish the front and the back and have this come out all as one piece. So that saves having to glue them all together, and basically the varnish seeps into the middle of all the feathers and sticks everything down. So once this is stuck to the canvas, that's to the background, that's not going to go anywhere. So this is my bird. So that is going to sit here on my background, and I've got this all organized. Now, the final step before I seal all of this with gloss varnish is to paint in some details. So the first thing I'm doing is just checking all of my feathers to make sure that there's no bits of hair or fluff and other things that have gotten into the varnish in the time that it was sitting on my table, because I can see little flecks of hair and things. And so I'll just try and scrape those out, scrape off any little bits that may have accumulated. And I'm just worried about the top, because then I'm going to embellish this with some markers. So you can see my bird fits right into that little space there, and this is how it will look as the final composition. I think that's really quite cool. Do I want to put it slightly off center and put maybe some legs or a branch? I may do that. That leaves me open to some creative ideas a bit later. And we have to do all that before we seal it, so that everything is sealed under the protective layer. Right, so the paints and pens and things I have here, I've got some Molotow liquid chrome pens in different thicknesses, and I have some Posca paint pens in white. So the Molotow pens are chrome, so liquid metal silver, and these Posca pens are just white paint pens. So I haven't quite decided what sort of details I'm going to put on this yet, but I do think I want to create just a little separation in the beak, and I'll use my reference image to do that. I kind of liked how that looked when I smudged it out, but now that that pen is on there, that's pretty dry. Okay, so I'm going to continue this. I'm going to go around the entire bird with my pen or my texter and just fill in some details, and I will be back when I'm ready to stick it all down. Okay, so I've put the details on. I am quite happy with that, and now I am going to do the final part of what I wanted to do with this, and that is to paint in a white outline around the entire bird. Now what I've done is I've made a boo-boo. I did a little practice on my bench off to the side, and in doing so I've got a little bit of white paint on here. Now because this paint is dry and cured, I can go over it with a baby wipe. This is a Dettol wipe. Shelley put me onto these. Apparently these are amazing for getting rid of oil and stuff and taking resin off your silicone mats. So I'm going to give everything a good wipe with this before I proceed. That's going to take off any oils that I've left with my hands and make it nice and clean, and get rid of any of that white paint that I just put on there by mistake. I should also clean the back of the bird so that I don't do the same thing. Okay. So now I'm just going to quickly dry this with a hairdryer. Done. Hairdryer is an amazing tool to have in the studio. So quick and easy to get things dry. Okay, and let's put our bird on there. I'm going to remove all of my feathers and things out of the way now because we don't need them. Probably shouldn't lay skins on top of skins, but that's okay. Let's go. This one here, and get all these little bits of paint skins out of the way as well. Work clean, everyone, when you're working. That way you can find things easier and things aren't getting in the way. It's not getting too messy. And I think the way that I'm going to attach the bird to the canvas, now the question is, do I attach the bird first and then put my outline on, or do I outline and then glue the bird on top? I think I'm going to do the outline by going around When using spray varnish, multiple light coats are always better than one solid thick coat. So now that I've got a little coat on there, let's position our bird. And I'm just lightly pressing it down, trying to press on the bird and not the canvas, or not the surface, because I don't want to leave any marks on my surface there. I think that looks pretty good. I think I'm very happy with that. So now to speed up the drying process, I'm just going to use my hairdryer. And I actually think it's really, really cool that the feathers lift up when you're using the hairdryer on it, because it actually makes them look like three-dimensional feathers. Okay. Now that we're dry, let's go in with our paint pen and do our outline. So this is pretty much do or die. Where do I want to start? Let's start up here where the body joins. And I'm just going to take my time. Okay, and I think Cocky here is done. Just fix up a few little details. So now I'm just going to give this a final coat of varnish. I'm so happy with this. This is so cool. So, alright everyone, I am so super happy with this. I'm still not taking my mask off because my room is probably still full of spray fumes. So I'm just going to turn off my hairdryer, and let's turn off these studio lights, and I'll show you, oh, that's the camera, I'll show you the chameleon pigments under my house lights. So there's our gorgeous bird. And look at that colour shifting chameleon pigment in the background there. That's the Northern Lights from Dreamland Watercolour. So super pretty. And this turned out far better than I expected, to be honest. Absolutely love it. And I'm going to go hang this in my home for a little while, I think. Give it a bit of a chance to air off and cure. And the final step for this now is to take off the tape. So the tape is on the sides here, and I'm going to gently peel that away. So I've never side taped a canvas before, so this is very new to me. And we're going to see if I like the finish. I actually really like how this looks black with that wooden side. I quite like that a lot. Now what I could do is I could varnish this edge as well,
which I might, and I might do that just with regular Joe Sonia gloss varnish on a roller. I don't want to use the spray because I don't want to get any overspray on the top. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to finish this up. This is my Cockatoo paint skin feather cutout. I hope you enjoyed this process as much as I did. It was very interesting to learn how to do all this. And if you're liking what I'm doing here, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye guys.